you know, when you find yourself in a position of an elder or a deacon or whatever else, and is it good if you see let's say a female, so we're all men here, and there's like I had 2 instances in the last 10 years that I've been here where a female was off by herself. I was walking through because I'm doing camera stuff for the cover kids, and then she started talking, and it's almost like a mentorship type thing. You know, you're welcoming them, but then there's a discipleship and ongoing. Is that the best case to try to find the deaconess to pair that female with to make it more appropriate? Because it's really about the rotation. Especially if you're by yourself or whatever else, even if you're in the public space, it's still so important, imperative to have that blameless.
A good question.
But just what's the
so there's a two-edged sword to that, because some people take for the camera, the question is, so as a man, if we get into a situation where a female in the congregation is requesting counsel, care, discipleship, or whatever, what should our response be? Or what would be the most beneficial thing? In not like saying I can't minister to a woman, which is on one side, or absolutely I can disciple a woman, on the other side.
Right.
So what's the good in between there? So I have known guys that take the real strong, like, they get nervous around a girl, they can't talk to a woman. And I think especially if men are called to be elders and pastors, for us to make a female in our congregation feel that they can't come to us with a question or a prayer request, that's not fair to them, right? Because of my insecurity. I should be full of self-control enough to be able to pray with a sister. Now, if she comes and knocks on my office door and says, "Hey, can I talk to you?" Well, sure. And she comes in and shuts the door. No, well, let's open the door. So now there's keep the door open, and yes, absolutely, we can talk. And if the talk goes, "Hey, Pastor David, I need help with my marriage because my husband and like I've fallen out of love with him and this and that. I just and then it starts to get into like really personal, like emotional things. You kind of know the difference between, do you have a question?
Yep. Or is there other motives here?
Well, there might not be other motives, but they can turn into something. So what we want to do is we want to say, "Hey, look, I got to be wise enough to nip that in the bud and say, so ma'am, I'll tell you what, like all that stuff, that's great. I can set you up with my wife or my assistant or one of the deaconesses or whatever. Do you have a biblical question regarding your marriage? Like what you're supposed to, because I can give you insight. Here's some Bible verses, and then I'll pray with you, and then I'll set you up with a female, And so I think we should be able to, like somebody comes to me at the altar and for prayer, a female comes up to me, I shouldn't be like, I'm sorry, there's no women available to pray, so we're just going to wait until, no, man, how can I pray for you, right? So I'll pray for that lady. Again, even at the altar ministry, a lot of times it turns into like they want counsel. But with a male or female, that's not what that time is for. So I'll say, hey, look, after a minute or two of explanation, I'll say, hey, so I'll tell you what, if you want further counsel, we have resources for that, but how can I pray? So if I'm discerning right, here's how I can pray for you. Is there anything like you'd like to add from my prayer request? And so that way, male or female, I'm not getting super intimate in that setting. And if it begins to go intimate, that's when I start looking for the deaconesses on it. Right. And they say, hey, Sharon, come on over here. Yeah, so that's when. So, but we also have to know ourselves. And if there's a situation where I'm struggling in the flesh, I hope we have an accountability partner where it's like, man, there's a couple times in my 15 years here where one time in particular, I think there was a female that was just having regular conversations with me in the hallway. Like she would see me, she would walk up to me, and it was sort of like one of those things where it's like, okay, nothing is inappropriate is being said, but it seems to be a little bit more regular than.
In the appearances of it's just always, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, so what I
up.
did was I went to another pastor and I said, hey, I just want you to know there's this female, I gave her a name. She hasn't said anything inappropriate, but I'm just sensing that there's a little bit of like, just I just want to be accountable to somebody. So that therefore, if he ever sees me off in a corner, like, and I'm like this and she's just da. Now, like, he'd be like, Dave, what happened, man? I thought you told me, So I have to be wise, but I also have to be accountable, and so
That's good.
yeah, good. That's a good question.